Good morning, students. Today we are going to see the effects of registration of the company or incorporation of the company. Yesterday we have already covered the incorporation process and the documents required to incorporate the company. Okay, so today we are covering this incorporation of the company. Already we have studied the characteristics of the company, that is perpetual succession, transferability of the shares, separate legal entity, capacity to sue, etc. So when this company will get the nature or characteristics when it is registered. Okay, so in the first paragraph we will come to know that incorporation of a company refers to the process of legally forming a company or a corporate entity. Okay, corporate entity means legal entity, a separate legal entity. What are the advantages? When the company gets incorporated, when the company is registered, automatically the all characteristics of the company, it will bear all the characteristics of the company like limited liability. The liability is up to the shares held by a particular member. So members' liability will be limited. The member can transfer the shares, transferability shares. Perpetual succession means this is a permanent succession, or until and unless law undertakes liquidation of the company's existence is perpetual. Company's existence is permanent. So it is called as a perpetual succession. Separate property, yes, as a company is also a legal entity. It has its own legal identification, so it can own its own property. Company can sue the third party. Third party can institute a suit against the company. So this is also one of the characteristics. When it comes only after the registration of the company. Flexibility and autonomy are also one of the, you can say, nature of incorporated companies. The company shall become separate legal entity from the date, this is most important, from the date mentioned on the certificate of incorporation. Yesterday we have seen how the certificate will be issued, okay, by the registrar of the company. On that certificate of incorporation, particularly date, date has been means it included. So from that date, company has got the separate legal entity. It is called as a date of birth of the company, as we natural people have our own date of birth. In the same way, company has a artificial personality when it takes the birth, when company gets the registration of, we can say, certificate of registration. That is the date of birth of the company. Okay. So next comes the company has a perpetual succession. Already we have talked when we were teaching the characteristics of the company. Perpetual succession means any member or the director, okay, if they are traveling in a ship, I told you, if they are sitting at one hall and bomb blast taken place and all have died, but then also company doesn't die. Company's perpetual succession, this is the main quality, this is the main characteristics of the company, because companies, this particular character, company is legally existed, even though members, all members are died, all directors are also died, but companies is live. Okay, so that character is called as a perpetual succession. When it will come? When the company get registered, the company becomes the owner of its property. Yes, as a legal entity, company can purchase the property in its own name. Company can purchase the assets in its own name, and company becomes the owner of that particular assets or that particular property. The promoters or shareholders have the right to share in the profits of the company, but promoters or the shareholders will not be the owner of the company's property. They will be the owner of the shares. They are not owners of the property. Who are the owner? Company itself is the owner of the asset, owner of the property. Are you getting? The company can sue and can be sued in its own name. As the company is incorporated, it is registered, it will get a particular name, and company will institute a suit against any other third party, or even the third party can institute a suit against the company in the name of company, not in the name of member, not in the name of director. But here company, as it's having a legal entity, the third party also institute a suit in the name of company. And if the company wants to institute a suit against the third party, in the name of company. Are you getting? So this is also effect of registration of the company. Company becomes entitled to enter into the contract. Yes, when the company registered with the registrar of the company under the Companies Act, obviously in the name of company, company can enter into various contracts, because when it gets the incorporation certificate, definitely it will start the business, and as a business company has to enter into n number of contracts. Okay, so in the name of company itself the contracts will take place. A company can immediately commence its business. Yes, here we have to remember 2 points. If the public company is there, public limited company is there, it cannot start its business until and unless it requires or it receives the certificate of commencement of business. In case of public company, 2 certificates are required. One is certificate of incorporation and another one is certificate of commencement of business. If the public company is getting these 2 certificates, then and then only it can start its business as per the objectives mentioned in the memorandum of association. But in case of private company, only one certificate is required, that is certificate of incorporation. They do not need this certificate of commencement of the business. Are you getting? So make it clear. Public limited company needs 2 certificates and private company needs only 1 certificate, that is certificate of incorporation. Are you getting? So certificate of commencement of business, which is required by the public limited company, who will give this certificate? Obviously registrar of the company. He is the proper authority to give the certificates. Okay, when the registrar of the company satisfies that all the required documents like articles of association, memorandum of association, declaration by the directors, are you getting, qualified shares, everything, if all these formalities are completed, if the registrar is getting all those documents submitted by the company, then he will issue the certificate named certificate of commencement of business. To whom? To the public limited company. As I told you, public limited company needs 2 certificates, and this certificate of commencement of business, it acts as a proof that the company has a legal right to start its business. Whatever the company has kept the objectives of its existence in the memorandum of association, accordingly the company will undertake the business. Okay, so without business, company will not, the existence of the company is you can say useless. So every motto, or you can say objective of the company, is to start the business. Okay, the formation of public company is completed. When it will complete? When already public limited company has received the certificate of incorporation, but it cannot start the business. When it will start the business? Only after receiving the another certificate, that is the second certificate, that is certificate of commencement of business. Okay, so the business activities of the company cannot be questioned if it's legally allowed to start its business, as the company has received this particular we can say certificate, that is commencement of business certificates. So no one can raise any question regarding the activities of the company, because legally company has got the license to start its business. Are you getting? So this is all about, this will be the short note in the exam regarding the effects of the incorporation. The question will be 2-way. What are the effects of incorporation certificate? What are the effects of commencement of business certificate? Or what are the effects of incorporation of the company? Answer is the same. Okay, whatever now I have just taught you, the same answer will be there. The next part, we are going to learn about the important document of the company, that is memorandum of association. In short, it is called as a MOA, Memorandum of Association. Yes, for the introductory part, I would like to tell you, Memorandum of Association is a very fundamental document. It is a fundamental document. Why? Because all other rules, regulations, or articles of association depends upon the Memorandum of Association. You take an example. In India, a lot of acts are enacted. N number of acts are there. Okay, N number of some personal type acts are there, negotiable instrument acts are there, partnership acts are there, companies acts are there, N number of acts are there. Okay, so before enacting all these acts, the legislature have to consider the fundamental rights which have been given in the Constitution. So Constitution is the fundamental law of India. If the citizens of India are having a fundamental rights, different fundamental rights, so anyone or any right should not be deprived by any provision of any act which is enacted in India. So based on this constitutional rights of the citizens, all acts will be created. Are you getting? So Constitution of India is the fundamental law. In the same way, Memorandum of Association is also the fundamental, it's a main document in a company. Are you getting? This document contains the constitution of the company. So as per this Companies Act 2013, Section 12 and Section 13, they deal with this Memorandum of Association, which have given 5 different clauses in the Memorandum of Association. The first clause is name clause. First clause is name clause. It states that name of the proposed company, because Memorandum of Association has to be submitted before registration of the company. Are you getting? That's why the proper word here, proposed company, means still the company's existence is not there, but then also Memorandum of Association is created. Are you getting? So what is the proposed name of the company that should be inscribed? So according to Section 20 of the Companies Act 2013, the name should not be undesirable. What is this undesirable? Generally, the name is said to be undesirable when it is too close to the name of another company. Both the companies must be identified. There should not be any just a repetition of the name of the company, and that's why it is the duty of the registrar that he should not give registration to the 2 different companies in the same name. Okay, so it will be undesirable. The name should not mislead as to the nature of the business carried on by the company. So as per the objective of the company, okay, whatever the nature of the business, whether it is a manufacturing, whether it's a trading, whether it is a export oriented, whatever may be, its name should not mislead the people. Are you getting? That precaution should be taken while choosing the name of the company. Another important thing is that if the company is with the limited liability, okay, limited liability, the last word of the name should be limited. Okay, should be XYZ Limited. XYZ is the name, but limited should be used. Why? In case of a private company, private limited, PVT Ltd, these are the compulsory terms which have to be used after the name of the company. This means attaching limited or private limited, this informs the person or any person who are interested in the company or who is going to contract with the company, what will be the liability of the members of the company, that will indicates. Are you getting? If it is a PVT Limited, then obviously the third party will come to know that it's a private company. If PVT is not written, only limited is written, then third party will come to know that it's a public company. Are you getting? Public company with the limited liability of the shareholders. They will easily understand that. The central government, time to time it issues, you can say, circulars and all. So sometimes if the company is for promotion of the commerce, promotion of the arts, promotion of the religion, some cultural activities, promotion of the science, research oriented companies will be there. In such companies' name, the central government may give the permission not to attach the term that is limited. That is limited. They cannot, means they will skip this limited words, but that too after prior permission of the central government. The name of the company is also required to be painted, obviously. Whenever there is the head office of the company or even the working place of the company, there should be the painted, you can say painted board on which the company's name, whether it is a private, limited or only limited, whatever, that has to be inscribed on that board. Okay. So the second clause is the registered office clause. Registered office clause. The name itself indicates that. It is most important. The second clause of the memorandum of state or association is in which state the registered office of the company is situated. That is most important, because all the documents, all the balance sheets, P&L account, the important documents are kept in the registered office of the company. So people all over the India, shareholders are scattered all over the India. They should know where company is having the registered office. Are you getting? So this is after incorporation, the exact, because in the process, even the promoters may change or their thought process may change, whether to keep the head office in Mumbai or in Bangalore or in Hyderabad or in Chennai, whatever. Okay. So here, once they decided, they have taken the last decision, then after incorporation, a particular time schedule is given, or the time is given by the registrar of the company. Within that prescribed time, the particular, you can say, information regarding the fixed space or fixed place of this registration office should be intimated to the registrar of the company. Okay, this is called as a registered office clause. The next clause, that is the third clause, is objective clause, objects clause. This is very important. This is very important. Why? Because what the company is going to do, what are the objectives of the company, whether the company is providing the finance, whether the company is going to manufacture the products, whether the company is having the objective of exporting the goods, whatever the objectives of the companies are there, those will be inscribed in this particular objective clause. Okay, this is very important. If the company is working or undertaking any activity beyond the objectives which are mentioned in the objective clause, then that work of the company is called as ultra vires. Here, the company will not be held responsible as an artificial personality. Okay. Here, directors will be held responsible, or the members will be, means those, that particular question, it will be questionable. Why? Because, see, whatever the objectives have been mentioned in the objective clause, company's representatives are directors. Directors have to undertake all those activities which are permitted by the company. Then who permits? This memorandum of association. Whatever this objective clause and the objectives, sub-objectives mentioned in the objective clause, company has to undertake all those activities. Company has the brain? No. Company are having any eyes? No. So obviously, who takes the decision? Directors of the company, board of directors take the decision. So these board of directors, always they have to concentrate on the objectives of the company. They should not work beyond the objectives of the company. Otherwise, their work will be ultra vires. They will be solely responsible. Company's properties will not be used to settle whatever the loss occurred if the directors are taking another decision which is not mentioned in the objective clause. So this is a very important clause in the memorandum of association. Objective clause is again divided into two parts. Okay, first one is the main objectives, and sub clauses are there where the incidental objectives or the ancillary objectives are mentioned. Okay, I would like to give one example. Suppose एखाद्या कंपनीने ठरवलं की आपल्याला एक हॉटेल चालवायचंय, 5 स्टार हॉटेल चालवायचंय. आता 5 स्टार हॉटेलमध्ये राहणारे कोण आहेत? फॉरेनर्स असतील, एनआरएस येतील किंवा चांगली श्रीमंत लोक येतील. बरोबर आहे. एअरपोर्ट होऊन त्यांना त्यांच्या हॉटेलच्या डेस्टिनेशन पर्यंत आणण्याचं काम आहे. त्याच्यासाठी जर एखाद्या कंपनीनं चांगले, ज्याला आपण कार्स असतील वगैरे एम्प्लॉय केले, तर ट्रान्सपोर्टेशन आहे ना, ते मेन ऑब्जेक्टिव्ह मध्ये जाणार नाही. हॉटेलचं मेन ऑब्जेक्टिव्ह काय आहे? टू रन द हॉटेल, दॅट इज 5 स्टार हॉटेल. मग त्याला अँसिलरी ऑब्जेक्टिव्ह काय आलं? मग स्विमिंग पूल टाका, मग क्लब घ्या, मग एंटरटेनमेंट करा, लोकांना ट्रान्सपोर्टेशन. दीज आर द अँसिलरी ऑब्जेक्टिव्ह. आर यू गेटिंग? दीज अँसिलरी ऑब्जेक्टिव्ह मस्ट बी मेन्शन्ड इन द memorandum of association. So this particular objective clause is very important. Very important. Otherwise, company will not be held responsible for the director's work if they are working beyond the objectives. Are you getting? And this clause, that is the fourth clause, is liability clause. the members of the company or the shareholders of the company, up to what limit they are liable. Their liability have been explained in this liability clause. The fourth clause has to state the nature of the liability of shareholders or the members of the business. This clause will state whether the liability of the members shall be limited. Already we have studied the types of the companies, whether the liability of the member is limited by guarantee, limited by shares, or the liability is unlimited, whatever. As per the type of the company, liability clause varies. Okay. Next, capital clause. This is the last clause in the memorandum of association, that is capital. The last clause, why it is? Because whatever the proposed registered, we can say capital is there. Suppose company wants to run its business lifelong, okay, and it is just mentioning the registered capital of rupees 50 crores, 50 crores. But right now company doesn't need 50 crores at a time in the first year. Gradually it needs. But when it register, it will mention the amount of the capital, number of shares, the value, face value of the shares. Are you getting? Everything will be mentioned in this capital clause. Capital can be raised, capital amount can be raised, it can be reduced, but as per the permission of the company law board, register of the company. Are you getting? And again, if the public company is there, SEBI's rules are also there. Stock exchange, okay, SEBI's rules are also there. So this is the last clause where the capital with which companies propose to be registered. Registered capital is different. Are you getting? Subscribed capital is different. Paid up capital is different. Called up capital is different. N number of types are there. You might have learned this in the BCom level. Okay. So this kinds of capital, number of shares, face value of shares, everything will be mentioned in this capital clause. So these are the different 5. Actually, by mistake, I have written this 4, but these are the 5 different clauses. Thank you very much. Today we have covered both, that is effects of the incorporation of the company and memorandum of association as a fundamental document of a company. Thank you very much. If you have any queries, just write in the comment box. I will clear in the next lecture. Thank you very much.